If you play the original Resident Evil 2 or the remake, you know the sound. The wet, rhythmic dripping from the ceiling of the RPD hallway. Then, the camera pans up, and you see it. A skinless, blind monstrosity clinging to the drywall with massive claws and an exposed brain. The LICKER is the ultimate glass cannon of the franchise. Terrifying offense, but anatomically designed to fail. In the lore, this creature is the result of the V-Act process. When a standard zombie accumulates enough biomass or undergoes extreme stress, the T-virus triggers a secondary mutation. The metabolic rate spikes, causing muscle tissue to grow so rapidly that it literally tears the subject's skin off. It looks horrific, but biologically, it's a mess. We're going to break down the physics of that exposed brain, the biomechanics of the tongue, and the impossibility of wall climbing to prove that this creature couldn't survive 5 minutes in the real world. The most glaring design flaw is right on top of its head. The human skull isn't just a bone bucket, it's a pressurized, shock-absorbing vessel evolved over millions of years to protect the consistency of soft tofu from the laws of physics. The LICKER, in its infinite mutational wisdom, didn't discard the cranium entirely. This is a fatal error for 3 specific reasons: impact trauma, infection, and desiccation. First, let's look at the physics of how a LICKER moves. These creatures hunt by launching themselves across rooms, tackling prey with incredible speed. Let's say a 180-pound LICKER jumps 10 feet and lands on a concrete floor. When its body hits the ground, it decelerates instantly. In a normal human, the skull stops, and the brain, floating in cerebrospinal fluid, sloshes forward, hitting the inside of the bone. That's a concussion. For a LICKER, there is no bone to stop the movement. The brain has mass and inertia. When the LICKER lands, its exposed brain wants to keep moving. Without a cranium to contain it, the G-force of the landing would cause the brain to shear away from the brainstem or physically flatten against the floor. It would essentially lobotomize itself every time it jumped. Even if the LICKER decided to walk carefully, it faces the problem of the dura mater. The brain is covered by 3 membranes called meninges. The outermost layer, the dura mater, is tough, about the consistency of a heavy canvas, but it isn't designed to be the primary shield against the world. It provides zero protection against sharp objects or debris. In the chaos of Raccoon City, one piece of falling drywall or a shattered light bulb wouldn't just cut the creature, it would slice directly into the motor cortex. Then we have the issue of sterility. The brain is an immunologically privileged site, meaning it does not handle infections well. Exposing the arachnoid matter to the open air of a sewer or a dusty police station is effectively performing open brain surgery in a dumpster. The inflammation would swell the tissue within hours, crushing neural pathways and causing massive cognitive failure. Finally, there is the drying out myth. Some might argue the T-virus prevents this, but physics disagrees. The brain relies on a bath of cerebrospinal fluid to maintain buoyancy and chemical balance. Without a sealed cavity, this fluid would leak out constantly. The outer layers of the cortex would desiccate, rapidly losing moisture to the air, leading to immediate necrosis. The cells would die, the tissue would shrink, and the LICKER would be incapacitated by a grand mal seizure long before it could find you. If the exposed brain is a defensive failure, the LICKER's primary weapon is an offensive impossibility. We need to talk about that tongue. In biology, a limb made entirely of muscle without skeletal support is called a muscular hydrostat. You have one in your mouth right now. Other examples include elephant trunks and octopus arms. These structures work by maintaining a constant volume. When they elongate, they must get thinner, and when they retract, they must get thicker. And the physics simply do not add up. The first hurdle is the storage paradox. Based on the in-game models and cutscenes, the LICKER's tongue can extend anywhere from 6 to 8 feet to spear a target. When that muscle retracts, it doesn't vanish into a pocket dimension. It has to go back inside the mouth. Look at the anatomical profile of the creature. It retains a largely human-sized jaw and neck structure. A muscular hydrostat of that length and thickness would have a volume roughly equivalent to a human arm. Try to imagine stuffing an entire human arm down your throat while still maintaining an open airway to breathe. It is physically impossible. The sheer mass of the retracted muscle would fill the oral cavity, the pharynx, and likely distend into the esophagus, effectively choking the creature to death every time it was hunting. But let's assume the T-virus grants it some non-Euclidean storage space. We still have to deal with Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. When the licker shoots its tongue to pierce a human chest, it is generating a massive amount of kinetic energy. In order to drive a blunt muscular tip through a sternum, which requires significant PSI, the base of that tongue needs to be a solid anchor point. For a human using a spear, the anchor point is our feet planted on the ground. For the licker, the anchor is its own neck muscles. The moment that tongue impacts a target, the equal and opposite force is transferred directly back into the creature's cervical spine. To withstand that level of tension without the head snapping backward or the vertebrae shearing, the licker's neck would need to be thicker than its torso. Furthermore, we have to consider the retraction speed. In the games, the licker misses a strike and snaps its tongue back instantly, like a rubber band. But muscle isn't a rubber band. It's heavy tissue with mass. Whipping a 6-foot, 20-pound limb back into the mouth in a fraction of a second generates immense torque. The whiplash effect alone would likely dislocate the jaw and cause severe cervical trauma. Essentially, the licker is a creature that would break its own neck the first time it tried to attack you, leaving it paralyzed on the floor while it choked on its own tongue. If the tongue doesn't kill it, gravity certainly will. The licker's signature move is crawling along the ceiling to set up an ambush. This relies on the idea that it can stick to surfaces, like a reptile, but this ignores the fundamental laws of scaling. Small lizards, like geckos, can climb walls because of van der Waals forces, microscopic interactions between the hairs on their toes and the surface. This works for geckos because they have a very high surface area to volume ratio. This ability, however, is governed by the square-cube law. As an organism grows, its volume increases cubically, while its surface area only increases squarely. A licker is essentially a skinned human male weighing anywhere from 180 to 200 pounds. It simply has too much mass and not enough surface area on its hands and feet to utilize molecular friction. It's too heavy for the gecko method. So it must use its claws, right? This presents a materials engineering problem. If a 200-pound creature is hanging upside down from a ceiling, all that weight is concentrated on the tips of its claws. In a modern building like Raccoon City Police Department, the ceilings are likely drop tiles, drywall, or plaster. These materials have a very low shear strength. Even if the licker's claws are made of diamond, the moment the creature puts its full weight on the ceiling, the claws wouldn't grip. They would slice through the soft material like a hot knife through butter, bringing the creature and a chunk of the ceiling crashing down. Finally, we have to address the creature's guidance system, echolocation. The licker is blind, navigating by sound. In the open ocean or a cave, sonar works beautifully, but a hallway is an acoustic nightmare. It is a cluttered environment filled with soft surfaces that absorb sound waves rather than reflecting them. This creates acoustic shadows. A licker clicking its way down a hallway would get a muddy, confusing picture of its surroundings. Worse yet is the issue of sensory overload. The licker has exposed brain tissue and enlarged ear canals, suggesting hypersensitivity. In a survival horror scenario, the environment is defined by gunfire. A 9mm gunshot in an enclosed hallway generates about 160 decibels of sound pressure. For a creature with hypersensitive hearing and no cranial protection to dampen the vibration, a single gunshot wouldn't just be loud, it would be physically debilitating. In reality, you wouldn't need a magnum to kill a licker, you would just need a flashbang or a loud whistle to send it into a seizure of sensory overstimulation. Finally, let's look at the fuel required to keep this biological disaster moving. The licker is essentially a biological engine redlining until it explodes. The most immediate threat isn't bullets, it's thermodynamics. Your skin acts as a vital insulator, trapping body heat and regulating moisture. The licker has stripped this away entirely, exposing raw, blood-rich muscle directly to the environment. It is effectively a walking radiator. Through evaporative cooling alone, it would bleed body heat at a catastrophic rate. To maintain homeostasis, the core temperature required for enzymes to function, then consider the upkeep cost of that anatomy. Skeletal muscle is metabolically expensive tissue. It consumes calories just by existing. The licker possesses hypertrophied muscles kept under constant high-tension torque. Combined with the rapid cellular regeneration described in the V-Act lore, we are looking at a caloric burn that is astronomically high. Think of it like a shrew or a hummingbird, animals that starve in hours if they stop eating, but scaled up to the size of a man. A high-performance human athlete might burn 4,000 calories a day. A licker, constantly losing heat and fueling massive explosive moments, would likely need upwards of 40,000 calories daily just to stay baseline. This creates a fatal hunger loop. To get that energy, it needs to hunt, but hunting burns even more energy. To satisfy a 40,000 calorie deficit, a licker would need to consume roughly 30 pounds of high-protein biomass, essentially eating a survivor's entire leg and torso every single day. It wouldn't have time to cling to ceilings and wait for Leon Kennedy. It would be frantically scouring the floors for rats. If it went without food for even 4 hours, its body would enter rapid starvation mode, catabolizing its own muscle tissue for fuel. It would literally digest itself from the inside out. In a city where fresh meat is scarce, the licker isn't an apex predator, it's a starving victim on a very short ticking clock. So what is the final diagnosis for Raccoon City's nightmare? The licker is a masterpiece of visual horror, but a complete failure of biological engineering. Its exposed brain is a structural liability that would liquefy upon impact with the floor. Its tongue is a biomechanical paradox that would snap the creature's own neck with a single strike. Its wall-climbing ability violates square cube law, and its hyper-aggressive metabolism ensures it would die of exposure or starvation long before it could kill you. The math simply doesn't support the monster. It is terrifying in a video game, but in reality, gravity is undefeated and physics is the ultimate survival horror. If you want to see us apply this same biological stress test to the nemesis or the tyrant, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more science breakdowns.